I was born and raised in Argentina to missionary parents. I always felt like I was the privileged one. I was very proud of the fact that I was from Argentina. And to this day, if anybody asks me, where are you from? I always say, I'm Argentine. That's where my heart is. I never had any bitterness or was upset that I was a missionary kid. I thought it was a privileged, lucky life. I got to live with my parents, and I went to public school. My first language was Spanish, and I remember my parents teaching me English at night. We lived in a Bible seminary with students, and I just loved being in that whole atmosphere. I thought I was lucky, and I have very fond memories of my growing up years. I never thought I would be a missionary because my parents were both professors in the seminary, and the people that I knew that were missionaries were highly intelligent, super Christians, people that I never could even aspire to be as great as they were. I felt like I could never measure up to be a missionary. So even though I had a deep faith in Christ, and I gave my whole life to Him at a young age and then rededicated my life when I was in college, I just felt like I could never serve God as a missionary because I'd be the worst missionary in the world. I just wasn't up to the standard, the grade A, as I had seen all my life. And the Lord spoke to me through several sermons, calling me back to my roots, my Latin roots, saying, I want you in Latin America. And I would say, oh, that's great. I mean, that's where I was born. That's where I was raised. I'll go live anywhere you want me to. I'm not afraid of going back. I just can't be a missionary. It would be too much. I wouldn't be good at it. And I fell in love in college with a guy who knew from the time he was in 11th grade that he was going to be a missionary. And we started dating, and we just avoided the whole subject of the future because I was sure God was not going to call me to full-time service as a missionary. And my boyfriend was sure that God would work things out and call me. So the relationship progressed, and I didn't hear a thunderbolt from heaven saying, yeah, Lisa, you go. And so finally, after 2 years, we broke up. I told my boyfriend, we can't have a future together because you're called to be a missionary, and I know that I can't do that. And I'm smart enough to know that I could never go as a missionary overseas unless I had a clear call to do that. And so we broke up, and it was horrible, and we suffered. And I remember saying to the Lord, why are you not taking my love feelings away for this guy if he's not the one for me? And the love kept intensifying, and I would see him on campus, and it was just awful. And people kept saying, you guys were made for each other. What happened? Finally, I was just having my regular devotions, and I was reading in John, and the Lord spoke to me, and He said, John 15:16. Just a second. I was just having my regular devotions, and I was reading John 15:16, and I didn't hear an audible voice, but it was the Lord speaking directly to all the things that I had brought to Him to say why I could not be a missionary. And it said, you did not choose me, but I chose you, and I've appointed you to go and bear fruit, the kind of fruit that will last. And anything you ask in my name, I'm going to give it to you. And it answered all my questions because in the end, I had given my whole life to Christ. I had told Him to be the Lord of my life, and He was the one doing the choosing of how He wanted to use me. And no matter how weak I was, and let me tell you, I'm pretty weak. There's not a lot that I had to give. God said, just give it to me, and I'm going to use you, and you're going to bear fruit that will last. Because after having grown up overseas and then going back and working in a mall I remember was one of my first jobs. It was so insignificant. I sold socks. And I thought, who would want to live a life of selling socks? Who cares about socks? I want to have a purpose, a meaning. And so that verse also talked about this is going to be fruit that will last. And anything you ask in my name, I'll give it to you. So don't worry. So you feel like you could never teach in a seminary like your parents did? But whatever I ask you to do, I'm going to make you capable of doing. And that has been my entire testimony as a missionary. Because there has never been a task that I've been asked to do that I felt I could do on my own. But then the amazing moments when you stand up there in obedience, shaking, saying, oh, this is going to be terrible, and the Lord just fills you up, and people are blessed, and you hear people say, thank you for sharing that with me. I feel so much closer to the Lord. Or the experience like no other when someone says, because of you, I know Jesus, and so does my mom and my dad and my brothers and sisters. There is no experience like it. And I can't believe to this day, after being on the field for 3 terms, that God still uses me. Do I still feel capable? Never. Never. But I'm so grateful that I know that if I walk in obedience, God can use even me. So I don't know who's listening to this. Maybe you're saying, oh, those missionaries, they're real heroes. They really do things. They're not afraid. I got to tell you something. I am a fearful person. I'm not brave. I'm not adventurous. I often second guess everything. But God still uses me, and I wouldn't change my life for anything. I have friends all over the world. I have experiences where I know it was only God through me. And I have a love for people everywhere. And it's just the best kind of life.